Of all the scenes in the Breath of the Wild sequel trailer, this one to me is the most intriguing. Ever since the follow-up was revealed at E3 2019, Nintendo have been incredibly tight-lipped about what we can expect from the game, leading to all sorts of speculation about what will be included. It certainly seems like the mummified remains of Ganondorf are involved, plenty of people are wondering whether Zelda will be a playable character, and many are hoping that the creepiness of the trailer translates into a much darker story this time around. For me though, this shot of Hyrule Castle being lifted up into the air asked an even bigger question, namely, is this the exact same Hyrule as the first game? If so, it has massive implications for the gameplay of the sequel. Breath of the Wild was not a narrative-driven affair. The excitement came from exploring the vast open world, digging into hidden nooks and crannies, climbing tall mountains, spotting something off in the distance and going to investigate, only to get distracted by 100 other intriguing things along the way. If Breath of the Wild 2, or whatever it ends up being called, uses the exact same map as the first game, that sense of exploration will be massively diminished, if not eradicated entirely, especially for those of us who've put hundreds and hundreds of hours into the game and know this map better than we know the towns we actually live in. So I decided to try and get to the bottom of this and set out to recreate this shot from the trailer in Breath of the Wild, to see if the landscape matches up, or whether there are any telltale differences. Greetings everyone, Phil here from Nintendo Village, just stopping in to ask you to leave a like if you enjoyed this video, and if you do consider subscribing to the channel as well, as we have new videos up just like this one every single week. Without further ado, let's get into it. Before we dive into my hunt for the shot, there have been a couple of comments from Asia Numa, the man who's been in charge of Zelda for the last 20 years, that seem to hint that we will indeed be returning to the same Hyrule as the first game. Most recently, in the video revealing Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity, Aonuma kicked things off with a bit of a spiel about the follow-up to Breath of the Wild, saying that,
regarding the sequel, in order to make the vast world you enjoyed exploring in the original game even more impressive, the team is working hard on its development, so you'll have to wait a bit longer before we can provide more updates.
Aonuma was even more explicit at E3 2019. Speaking to Game Informer not long after we first got a look at that trailer, he revealed his motivation for creating a direct sequel, something that's not overly common when it comes to mainline Zelda games. One of the reasons we wanted to create a continuation, he said, was because I wanted to revisit that Hyrule again and use that world again, while incorporating new gameplay and new story. That really does sound like Aonuma fully intends to take us back to the exact same Hyrule that we saw in Breath of the Wild. But what about that castle lifting scene? Does that match up with the landscape from the first game? Glancing at it, it certainly seems so. You can see telltale aspects like the mountain with the crescent carved out of it on the left hand side here, and of course Death Mountain on the right. But there's nothing to say that Aonuma and his team at Nintendo couldn't fashion a brand new map that nevertheless retained some of the more memorable landmarks we visited in the first game. So I booted up my save on Breath of the Wild and set out to find the same vantage point from which this was taken. These ramparts here look like the edge of the Great Plateau to me, so I started there. Once I'd got the castle roughly where it was in the trailer, it was clear I needed to be much higher, so I turned around and headed for the cliffs. On my way there though, I came across this tree and thought it looked rather similar to this part on the trailer. Once I climbed up and panned the camera around, it lined up perfectly. It certainly looked like the same map at this point, but I still wanted to recreate the shot properly and see just how similar it really was. Setting off up on the mountain again, I found myself running up towards the cave where Link's adventure starts, and found myself wondering if they had in fact taken that shot from the outcrop where that iconic opening panorama swings round at the beginning of the game. Sure enough, as I reached the cliff edge, it all lined up. And it's not just the major landmarks either, even the number of trees are exactly the same. Weirdly, the only thing that does seem different is the position of the sun. I waited until sundown to try and match it up exactly, but the sun seems to set much more to the west within Breath of the Wild than its position in the sequel trailer for some reason. Still, that minor difference aside, there's no doubt in my mind that we are indeed looking at the exact same map for the sequel as we experienced in the first game. There are, however, a couple of differences, namely the Sheikah Towers, shown here, are missing. Most significantly though, this shrine is also absent in the sequel trailer. Now, the Sheikah Towers are of course absent when you start Breath of the Wild, but that shrine isn't, so there's clearly some changes afoot. I reckon there's two possibilities here. Either there's a completely new batch of shrines just in new places, or, and I kind of hope this is the case, there's going to be a number of traditional bigger dungeons with each room within those dungeons acting as its own sort of shrine kind of thing. As I mentioned earlier though, if this is indeed the same map, dungeons aside, then there is going to have to be a new reason for us to run around this map that we all know so well. And personally, I'm hoping that's the game's story. Breath of the Wild, as fantastic as it was, felt a little light on the narrative front, and for a series whose fanbase will happily spend hours poring over lore and timeline theory, this was a little bit of a disappointment. Still, returning to the same Hyrule in a sequel raises the prospect of a much more narrative-driven affair, and one that's far darker in tone. This appears to be something Aonuma himself is indeed hinting at. As well as that Game Informer interview where he expressed the desire to tell a new story, he also told IGN around the same time that it's shaping up to be even darker than that within Majora's Mask, saying, "The new Breath of the Wild, or the sequel to it, it's not necessarily going to be related to Majora's Mask or inspired by it. What we showed you currently is a little darker." This makes me very excited, and I'm very keen to return to Breath of the Wild with a new, dark, gripping story driving me forward. But what do you think? Are you disappointed that this looks like it could be the same map in the sequel to Breath of the Wild as the first game? Or are you excited about returning to that world with a new story for you to really sink your teeth into? Let me know down in the comments, and let me know if you enjoyed this video. If you did, do make sure you subscribe as we have new videos up every single week. And I'm also streaming every weekend over on Twitch now, so if you want to chat about Zelda or Nintendo in general, make sure you come and hang out. There's a link down in the description. Don't forget to check out thenintendovillage.com for more Nintendo news, reviews, features, podcasts, and all that cool stuff. Thanks again for watching. I'll see you all next time.